Well, hello. Welcome back to Habit Helps, a podcast of Creekside Community Church in San Leandro, California, where we talk about how habits build you and about how you can build better habits. My name is Jeff Bruce. I'm joined by John Bruce. Dad, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Okay. Yeah, just okay?
Just okay.
Okay.
Just okay.
Playing injured today? Or
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How's your bracket?
My bracket is non-existent.
Okay.
I didn't know enough to do a bracket this year. I didn't follow it enough.
You know, the dirty little secret of brackets, Dad, no one knows enough to do a bracket. Oh, okay. Well, hey, we're going to talk about Proverbs, right?
That's right.
We just talked about what we're going to talk about, and that's how this podcast goes. We figure it out, and then we do it right on the fly, and we're wrapping up our series today, Smart People, what Proverbs teaches about building habits. Proverbs is the Bible's wisdom book, sort of the manual for wisdom, and biblical wisdom is skill in living. It has to do with those small daily decisions we make, the habits we develop. And so Proverbs has a lot to say about habits, and that's why we're looking at it. We've spent 15 weeks now looking at Proverbs. This is week 16 of this series. So there is plenty to look at, and we are landing the plane on the series this week. Week 16, and we've been talking about discipline. This is the fourth week on discipline now, and we're going to wrap up discipline. We're going to wrap up the series, and we want to talk a little bit more about time. Dad, time is on our side. Or is it?
I'm not so sure.
Yeah. So today is going to be really practical, but we thought, especially after last week talking about productivity, it gets into this issue of how to redeem the time, which is what Paul tells us to do in Ephesians 5. He says to redeem the time. So we just wanted to share some things we've found helpful in terms of managing our own time. Dad, I've got a few. I bet you've got more than a few. So share. Where would you like to start?
Well, I have a very few, but just for me practically, I mean, planning my time has been really important because I find that if I don't have a plan, that I will waste the time, or I will spend it on the thing that feels good right now, or that I want to do right now, or the project that's interesting to me right now, and I don't get the important thing. So I find it's necessary to step back first of all and think about what do I want to accomplish before I try to accomplish it. I was thinking of Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to advantage, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty. And I have a long history of procrastination and then being hasty and trying to get things done I need to get done, not taking the time I need to take with them, waiting until the last minute. And I find the longer the lead time, the better the quality of what I do, which requires me to plan in advance, think in advance what I'm going to do. So planning my work and then working my plan is really essential.
So what's that process look like for you? How do you do it? Daily, weekly, monthly?
Daily. It's got to pretty much be daily in terms of what do I need to accomplish today and when will I do it and how will I do it. So that's really, and it's just, I think that there's a proper order to work. And that's been hard for me because I love to be undisciplined. I like to be impulsive. I like to go with what feels natural now. And that just doesn't seem to work in real life. So I think that Proverbs 24:27, prepare your work outside, make it ready for yourself in the field. Afterwards, then build your house. And I could just see the guy, now I want to build my house first. I got a great design for this house. I'm going to do but if you don't get your ground, you get your crops in the ground in time, you're not going to have a crop, which means you don't need a house. You're going to be bankrupt anyway. So I think there's not only doing what needs to be done, but doing it in the proper order, which requires me to plan in advance what order, not only doing the right things, but doing them in the right way.
Yeah. I think all of us have a tendency to gravitate toward the work that comes most naturally to us, the
Yeah.
things we're most effective at.
Yeah.
And when we get anxious or uncertain, we just opt to do the things we know we can do
Yeah. That's
well
good.
rather than the things we do. I think of there's a great A&E show. I think it's called Alone, but basically it's just a survival competition and who can outlast everyone else physically and mentally before they break out in the wilderness. And it's interesting because all of these survivalists have different skills, but you see who really has a plan versus who just kind of wants to do the things they're good at.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
thinking of that proverb, prepare the fields first. There was a guy who was just an amazing builder, and he spent the first week building his habitat, and he had the most beautiful cabin you've ever seen in the woods, and he was starving. Right. By the end of the week, just completely famished, exhausted because he didn't do things in the right order.
Yeah.
And that's just a real graphic portrayal of all of our lives where we all gravitate to do things we do well rather than doing the most important thing at the right
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So for you, it's a daily process of determining when is the most important time to do what.
Well, what needs to be done? What do I, if I don't have a plan, what do I want to accomplish today? Even if it's just yard work.
Yeah.
And things I want, if I don't have a goal, it's easy to be distracted by other things. So I need to, I think of Proverbs 16:9, the mind of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And I find God normally directs me when I plan.
Yeah.
That's when I sense his leading, sense his voice to me, when I'm actually thinking through, well, what am I supposed to do today? What do I need to accomplish? And take the time to think about that. If I don't, the day is seldom as productive as when I do.
Yeah, and I think you look at any biblical character and the way God guides and directs them. What stands out to me is every one of them was already moving.
Yeah.
Everyone was already doing something.
Yeah.
No one was sitting around waiting for God to tell them what to do.
Right.
They were doing the things they knew had to get done, right? They were a shepherd. They were doing this thing, and then God directs them to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that can be a misconception sometimes that I kind of have to sit around and just wait until it becomes clear. It's like, no, you already probably have a sense of what needs to get done.
Yeah.
Start being faithful in those things, and then God will direct you to the things you need
As
to
needed,
attend
yeah.
to as needed.
That's good. How about you? What principles have you practically applying on managing, controlling your time?
Well, in terms of planning work, and I am chronically bad at this because I am shiny object man. I just love, hey, look at that, right? That's
Yep.
squirrel, right? That's
Yeah.
that's my temperament, and as my wife well knows. So for me, as I plan my week, especially, I have to pick the times when I can do certain activities most effectively.
Mm,
And I think that's important with mental work
mhm.
to say, when am I sharpest?
Yeah.
When do I have the most mental energy for this? Realizing that for certain tasks, the quality of the energy you commit is much more important than the quantity of time you commit.
Right.
So, for instance, if you're doing creative work, and we do a lot of creative work, got to create sermons all the time, I am much sharper in the morning, and I'm much sharper when I'm undistracted, when I've slept well. And so I kind of know when those days are going to be. And if I can get a block of 90 minutes or 2 hours during that early morning time, completely free from technology, completely free from distraction. And sometimes you're bored. Sometimes your mind wanders. That's okay, but you kind of divert back. I will get so much more done in that time
Yeah.
than 4 hours in an afternoon
Yeah.
when I'm tired and I'm
Oh.
distracted or doing any of those kind of things. And so
Yeah.
there's a principle there of pick the best times for your deep work, for your hardest things, give your best energy to them. And so the general principle for me there is, you give your early morning to God, you give your morning to your thinking work, you give your afternoon to your people.
Yeah.
That's just the season I'm in my life, and
Yeah.
you give your evening to your family.
Yeah.
And that's kind
good.
of the way I divide up my
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
So they get the scraps.
What's that?
It sounds terrible. So they get the leftovers of my energy, but no, they get a little time in the morning too. But
Yeah.
but the point is, the hard tasks, give your best energy to them,
yeah.
and eliminate distraction to do them.
No, that's good because nobody has limitless energy.
Yeah.
We all have only a certain amount of energy, and so learning how to budget that energy for the best return
Yeah.
is really important.
Yep.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah. One thing I was thinking about is the principle of eliminating and concentrating.
Yeah.
Is that first of all, Proverbs 14:23 says, "In all labor there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." And there's just so many activities that where you're doing stuff, but they really aren't producing a whole lot.
Yep.
And so I think to really accomplish a few things, you've got to eliminate a lot of things that tend to. Now, that's if you're not in a job where you can do that, where you just pretty much
You have to be reactive to manage things that come up. Right.
that you can't do that as much.
No.
But I think in more, when you have a little more freedom, it's just really realizing that a lot of the stuff that requires our attention or calls for attention really isn't going to move the ball up the field at all. It's
No.
just taking time, but so you really figure out what are the few things I want to get and concentrate as much of my time on doing that.
Yep. Good.
So I think that's and then along with that is in concentrating is just do less and work at a realistic pace. I think that's really key. It's just I can only produce so much.
Yeah.
And my mind kind of goes on hold then. And so if I can do that consistently day after day after day, it's amazing how much I can accomplish just on having a regular routine of the things I want to get done. I can do far more. And I've learned that with sermons, that just to always prepare my sermons at the same time every day, and get as much done as I can. And some days they'll get a lot done. Other days I won't get a whole lot done. But it's in the long run, it really works.
Yeah, that ties into something I wanted to talk about related to priorities in life, and it goes beyond work. But priorities, what I've learned is to make things a priority is more about consistency of time than the quality of time or the quantity of time you give them. Because I think here's what we do. We think about our lives in terms of what's important, and we say, I want to give my best work to this. I want to do my best. And especially if you're a perfectionist like me, that can sabotage your efforts really quickly.
Yeah.
Because you come up with all these dreams for these great things you do, and they get loftier and loftier. And the reality is they get less and less likely that you're going to do them. And so I love the Churchill quote, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. I think it was Churchill who said that.
Yeah.
But that's been really good for me as a perfectionist. And so what's been really helpful for me with habits, and it's a James Clear principle too that he talks about, that a habit cannot be improved until it's established, right? And so what you want to do is establish your minimum daily requirement to live out your priority.
Yeah.
Establish the minimum daily requirement. So I've whittled it down. For me, a quiet time is 20 minutes. Now, I often go longer than 20 minutes, but I know that I can do what I want to do in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What that means is if it gets sabotaged, if something happens, it still gets done.
Yeah. No, that's good.
And the same with working out. I have my minimum daily requirement is 20 minutes for working out. And now I'll work out longer than that when I have the time, but I know it gets done. And that is so important because what it builds is a story you can tell yourself that, no, I do live these priorities because I get these things done. And then you can improve them as you iterate them. And I'm trying to do that now with my kids and thinking about their devotional time and trying to how can I make this 5 or 10 minutes to give them something to do that's just 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. And the reason for that, you go, well, that's not enough. It's like, well, this is a compound interest issue here.
Yeah.
It's you iterate. It will improve as you keep iterating it. But it's the fact that you do it consistently is what gives the impression that it's a priority, not the quantity of time or the quality of time you give to it.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important when you're establishing priorities is to give the minimum activation barrier.
No, that's good.
I don't know if you found that.
Yeah, same thing. That if I just get it in the schedule, just do it.
Yep.
It eventually bears fruit.
Yeah.
And it becomes a habit. And it's easier to, as you say, build on that habit once it's established, increase it. And that's been certainly the case in my life. It's just that my quiet time has increased over the years. I didn't start out with where I am now.
Right.
But it just feels natural now because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. But you kind of have a clear idea of, if I only had this much time, here's what I would do.
Yeah.
Right. And that helps to establish, like, no, I did it.
Yeah.
And I think that satisfaction of knowing it's done is a very powerful motivator to keep going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So how's that working with your kids?
I'd say it's one to implement still. So
Okay.
we try a few different things we want to be talking about the scriptures all the time with them. And I think we do throughout the day. We're bringing up things as things come up, we're relating them back to God.
Yeah.
But, right now it's still a mad dash in the morning.
Hmm.
So, finding the time, creating the margin,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
going to be some tinkering that goes on,
Yeah.
but it's doable.
Yeah.
It's doable. You just got to start doing it.
It's such a good goal. Such a good goal. And I think it's really practical for parents. It's just if I get my kid to read their Bible every day for 5 minutes, that's the goal.
Yeah.
5 minutes a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, or 5 days a week, or 4 days a week. Something that the majority of the days of the week
They're going to do.
they're going to do.
Yeah.
Because I think that is the tipping point for most habits. If you do them 4 days a week instead of 3, the story you can tell yourself is the
Yeah.
majority of the time I do this.
Yeah.
And once you can say the majority of the time I do this,
Yeah.
that means it's a priority,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then it can improve and expand. Because the problem with saying we're going to do this every day is then missing feels catastrophic in some way. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
every single, now you want to get there, but so much of habit building is being able to start again,
Yeah.
right? Oh, I missed a day. Okay, I'll do it the next day. I'll do
Yeah.
it the next day. It's
Yeah.
picking it back up. And that is so critical.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. The test is not perfection, but the test is that you pick it up.
Yeah.
You don't let it lay there.
Right.
And that's the victory.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah. No, that's good. That's really good.
What are, what else do you have?
I think the only other thing is
The only other thing, you are such a productive person. I just picked 2 principles and have lived by them. Okay, go ahead.
no, this is a small thing, but I think I like the idea of time blocking, and you talked about this a little bit, but just what do I do when I have the most energy? What do I do when I have the least energy? What part of the day serves for what?
Right.
And that is very helpful.
Yeah.
So I think again for us, mornings are the key.
Yeah.
And I've had to learn to stop scheduling breakfasts in the mornings, and stop meeting with people in the mornings if I want to accomplish something. But I can meet with them other times. But there are certain things I've got to do in the morning when I've got the energy and the time to really think.
Yep.
That's where the value gets.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few more I've thought about. One thing with time, obviously the big time suck in our culture is technology.
Right.
And so I think defining your relationship with technology is helpful. And what does that mean? Andy Crouch talks about putting technology in its proper place. Everything in our life should have a place. Nothing should be all consuming, all expansive, all accessible all the time. Right? Not, God should have that
Yeah.
place in our
Yeah.
life, but
Yeah.
nothing else should
Yeah.
in terms of just being so pervasive and overwhelming. If I walked around with a sandwich all day, just always had to have a sandwich in my hand. I mean, it's like, wow, that guy's got kind of an unhealthy fixation on sandwiches, right? And the same thing with phones or with anything else, that nothing should have the ability to be completely pervasive
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah.
And so it just means you're defining your relationship for what you will use, how and where and what. So just a few things I've done, and obviously this is something that's going to be different for each person in terms of what they find most addicting or most distracting with technology. But for me, it's I have no social media apps. I check social media once a day. I don't scroll. I check it for messages, and I check it with my email. So I treat it like my email. If
That's
someone
good.
messaged me
That's
on a
good.
social app, that's why I check it. And
Yeah.
so it's the same. It's stacked to my email so that I'm not just checking it for no reason, because
Yeah.
I've learned long ago that's a black hole and a total time suck. For me on my phone, every app is purely utilitarian and not for entertainment. Because entertainment is endless on your phone if you want it, right? With games and distractions and all these things. So it means I have calendar, finance, things to purchase things, basically boring apps. No app that I'm like, ooh, I want to check that right now, right? There's no app on there that I'm enticed to check or that gives me updates. And what that means is I look for entertainment with my family or digital distraction with my family. I'm not going to look at it apart from that. I'll
Mm.
go play a video game with Jake,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Not on my phone. I'll go watch a YouTube video with Addie or
Yeah,
something, right?
yeah.
And not there. And so that's why I don't have, a search engine on my phone, or to have other things, in light of a lot of other reasons for that too. But that's one. And the other one with my phone is I don't have email on my phone,
Mm.
because having email gives me the illusion that I can always get more done in terms of work.
Mm.
And the minute you pull it up and see a question from somebody, it's like, oh, the most important thing I can do right now
Yeah, yeah.
is this. And so it's not putting work in its proper place either.
Yeah.
So I've just defined what my technology will be in a few different ways so that it doesn't become all consuming.
That's very, very helpful.
So I've tried to make my smartphone dumber, and and tried to, yeah. So just a few things I've found that are helpful there.
That's great. So, do you have like regular times you check your phone and then not do it the rest of the time, or?
Well, the reality is you still check your phone a lot because you get texts all the time, right? So
Yeah,
I
that's
try to
true.
just put it in do not disturb, and
Mm.
I answer it when my wife calls me twice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's how I know. If she calls me twice, that means I've really gotta I need to respond.
That's great.
But
That's
that's it's, I guess what I'm saying is it's distracting enough. It's already distracting. I
Yeah.
already probably pick it up 100 times a day.
Yeah,
And so I
yeah.
don't need more reasons to pick it up.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
No, that's very helpful.
um yeah, for some people they've got to use it more for different things, and that's fine. But I think all of us have to define our relationship
Yeah,
with tech in some way.
Yeah.
With news feeds, like how much news do you want to read in a day?
yeah,
Pick a number. Okay, I'm going to spend 15 minutes looking at news feeds, because the allure of I could always be more informed or always be more. I mean, it is just,
yeah.
it is a black hole.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. I think being older has been a boon for me because a lot of these things I just never got in the habit of like going to social media or news feeds or anything like that. So, it's not been discipline for me. It's just been, why do you want to do that? So,
It's great.
but I can understand. I think your example is really helpful to most people because you're living where most people are living, which is great. And how do you control this?
Well, and technology is such a two-edged sword because it saves you so much time. I mean, there's so many tasks that technology could help planning, orchestrating, automating that are fantastic. I love it, but defining your relationship with it
Yeah.
is important. And so,
That's the dark side for me because I never figured out how to use that stuff. That doesn't help me.
yeah. What else? Do you have any other thoughts on
I think
this?
that's about all for me from Proverbs.
Okay. Well, I didn't even have Proverbs to back these things up. I'm just spitballing here.
No,
But
that's good.
a few other I think that are important. Don't underestimate the power of rest,
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
because rest is necessary for a productivity.
yes,
My coach said it's as necessary as sleep.
yeah,
And so figure out what you enjoy doing, and then just do things you enjoy when you
Mm.
rest. Don't
Mm.
do things to improve, to evaluate, to whatever. Because it's sort of like the ground that lies fallow that then the seeds of creativity can sprout from. When you're resting, you get new ideas, new perspective. You're out of the grind, and actually, you end up being more productive and creative with the work you're doing once you rest. And I think the principle there would be, if you have a really hard physical job, then mental rest is good, right? Like I mean, physical rest is good where you're doing something mental. You're
Yeah,
stimulating
yeah.
your mind in some way, right? Like go on the internet, go read something, but if your job is so online and it's so mental work, go rest physically. Like go out, be outside, be in nature, go exert yourself, get into your body and out of your head so much.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just something that's, if you're doing a lot of mental work, don't spend your free time scrolling around doing more mental work, because you're just going to grind up your mind.
absolutely.
And that's what I found. It just gets so burnt out stewing over different ideas. And then the last thing I would say in terms of time management stuff, and this is more taking the life view of this, is just be mindful of the season you're in life, and that there are certain things that are just not going to be as possible now, and that's fine.
Yeah,
Like if you got early kids and you feel like I'm not really advancing in my career, and I got so many family commitments, that's fine.
yeah,
Because you're never going to get this opportunity again to raise your kids.
Yeah.
You're going to have other opportunities to work. And so just being mindful of those seasons and then being okay with it and accepting that, no, this is a really important investment to make now.
yeah,
And so figure out the things you can only do now at these points in life. When you're first married, it's the only time you can really establish habits for what your marriage is going to look like.
yeah, yeah.
Right. And they're hard to rebuild later. So get the good habits, the prioritizing time, the good habits of communication, right? So things like that. If you're in your 20s and 30s, build friendships. Because sometimes it's hard after college, but this is the best period in your life to do it. It's going to
Yeah.
get hard
Yeah.
in your 50s or 60s to go just find new friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would just say things like that, being mindful of those things, taking the long view of life.
Yeah. That's great. I think along with that, or not along with that, but is really realizing what has God called me to do now, and the opportunities He's given me, and not kick against the goads, so to speak, of things that He hasn't called me to do right now.
Yep.
And but really enjoy what He's called me to do and focus on that.
Yep. Yeah, do those things well, and there
Yeah.
will be time for other things.
There will.
And I mean, maybe, but you've got today.
Yeah.
And do be clear on the things God's calling to you to right
Yeah.
at this moment.
I think the thing I would wrap up with is Paul's whole thing of redeeming the time or making the most of the time because the days are evil. Yeah. And our ability to control our time, to manage our time, to pay attention to our time really can either help or hinder avoiding all the traps of our culture, the traps of society, the things that the world is calling us to.
Yeah.
You can't just stumble into a well-lived life.
Nope. That's good. So I'm curious for you as we close. My question, I was thinking about this because I feel like you have been remarkably disciplined throughout your life in pursuing the things that God's calling you to and not deviating. What would you say, looking back, what are some of the best decisions you made in terms of time management, and then what are the things you wish you hadn't invested so much time in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe give one of each. Yeah.
I think one is just delighting in the Lord, just to realize that my joy in life really comes down to my relationship with God, and that's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's going to take time to be with Him every day, to hear His voice, and to seek Him, and to learn about Him, and stuff like that. But that provides a foundation for everything else, and that's really been what it's come down to. It's not, my goal has not been to be disciplined or any of those things. That's not the goal.
Yeah, that's a means.
Yeah, that's just a means. But the byproduct is the delight and the joy and the peace that comes from walking with God as closely as I can. So that's been one thing. I think the mistakes and there are many, but the thing that stands out right now as you say that is just spending a lot of time doing things that seem like the good thing. Well, it'd be good to spend an hour with this person, or it'd be good to hang out with this person, or stuff like that, but not having a clear goal or what I was trying to accomplish, and then just feeling kind of, well, that could have been better, but I didn't try to make it better. A lot of things I just kind of showed up and just put in the time. And sometimes that was worthwhile, but often it was not, because I didn't really seek the Lord and say, how do you want me to serve this person? Or how can I minister to this person? Or things like that, rather than just kind of going in kind of automatically through it. And hopefully something would happen, So
it's good.
Those mistakes, one of the mistakes I made.
No, that's helpful. I mean, my sense there is, when you're with people, especially if they want to talk about something, it takes a lot of work and intentionality to think through, how am I going to help take this conversation deeper and move it in a redemptive direction? Yeah. If the purpose is to talk serious things, right? And not just to, I don't know.
It's
talk about our brackets.
It's right. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Jeff.
Helpful stuff. Listeners, hopefully this was helpful to you and encouraging, and just encourage you to start. You can start small and make incremental improvements with the things you know are important. And we'll talk to you again soon. We'll have something new to talk about. I don't know what, but we'll talk, and it'll be good. All right. Thanks. Bye.